In this video, I'm going to show you a better way to paint Adeptus Custodes for Warhammer 40,000. And so you can follow along, this is going to be an easy to follow step-by-step guide, giving you the knowledge and confidence to get your own Custodes ready for the tabletop. From the gold armour to the cool energy effect on their power blades, by the end of this tutorial you'll have no problem getting your Custodes fully painted. My name's Michael and welcome to TableTopReady. In this tutorial I want to make painting Adeptus Custodes more fun and make them a lot easier to paint no matter your skill level. All the paints and brushes I use will be shown on the screen as I use them, and they'll also be listed in the description along with links to my favourite hobby tools and equipment you see me using. And before we get started, we'll first have to get our miniatures ready for painting, which involves building them using sub-assemblies and getting them undercoated with some Retributor armour spray. If you want to learn more about getting your miniatures ready for painting, I have a dedicated video on the channel that covers sub-assemblies and undercoating your miniatures in depth. So when you're ready, we can get started and learn how to paint the gold armour of the Custodes. In this first section, we'll be painting the gold armour starting with the absolute basics, then looking at how to make the process more enjoyable and straightforward. Let's start with painting the gold for the armour, and for this we want to first mix an equal amount of Retributor armour and Liberated gold together. And once you have your mix, for best results we want to thin our paint, and I find an equal amount of water does the trick. We also want to remove excess paint from our brush on some paper towel first to give us more control when painting. Then when you're ready, keep your brush moving and try not to go over any areas you've already painted to prevent creating any unwanted texture whilst the paint is still drying. And because we thinned our paint, it won't have covered so well, so let's repeat the process and apply another layer. This lets us build up to a solid colour without losing any detail. Just make sure to let each layer fully dry first before doing another one. It's really easy to overlook the very basics of how we apply paint to our miniatures, but it's these simple things that are really going to make the difference to helping us achieve better results once we're finished. With the first colour done, let's make our armour more interesting, picking out some of the decorative details with Canoptech alloy. After that we can paint any details we want to be silver using Iron Hand steel. And although we want to be as neat as possible whilst painting, if you're like me you're going to be a bit messy and make mistakes. That's okay though, we can always go back and tidy things up as we go, or wait until the base colours are done before fixing them. When the details on the armour are painted, we can move on to creating definition, making our details easier to see. The best way to do this for the very detailed gold armour is with a wash, and to make our wash let's mix an equal amount of Reikland Flesh Shade and Seraphim Sapphire together. And when using any kind of wash or shade, we want to use enough to cover our details comfortably, and not so much it pulls up in areas we don't want it to. If you do see this happening, then we can use our brush to pull away any excess we don't want. When our wash is fully dried, we can use some lawn oil for any silver details. Then once you're done, you'll be able to see how this has helped to bring out all those shapes and details. To help bring out the details even more, we can do a dry brush, which is a nice easy way to pick out edges and raise details. We're using Stormhouse Silver, and we first want to work the paint into our brush before removing as much as we can on our paper towel until it's no longer coming off the brush. Once you're ready, let's move our brush rapidly across details, so these are the only areas which paint will deposit, leaving recesses and shallow areas untouched. Take your time doing this and build your highlights up slowly, as we don't want to overpower what you've already done. Now the dry brush is done, we've finished our iconic Custodes gold armour, and we can now move on to the next part of the tutorial where I'll be showing you how to get the other details in our Custodes painted. Let's start this section by painting any weapon casings and ribbing between the armour with a Baden black. Then we'll highlight both these details to bring out the edges. And instead of doing a dry brush like we did for the armour, let's do an edge highlight using some Dawnstone to bring out the edges. The idea behind highlighting is to bring out any edges, areas and raised details to draw our attention to them and to make these features stand out even more. To make these easier, we can angle our brush and run it along an edge to create our highlights. And if you can't do this, then we just have to take our time painting thin lines where we want those highlights to be. Creating highlights this way isn't as messy as doing a dry brush. For me, highlighting has to be one of the most important techniques to really practice and get good at, because not only does it help to improve the look of our miniatures, but it also helps to improve our brush control and hand-eye coordination. As well as an edge highlight, we can really bring out the shape with a spot highlight, painting dots of administratum grey on all the corners where light would be more focused. Highlighting really does make a difference, helping our miniatures to stand out more. The next thing to paint is any red leather like the gloves and any straps using Galvorback red. Then we can create our definition using some Nuln Oil. After that we can paint a thicker highlight called a chunky highlight using Corn Red to start bringing out our details. This means it will be seen after we've done our thinner edge highlight after this using Squig Orange. For any plumes, let's use Mephiston Red for our base colour, always making sure to build up to a nice solid colour. To make sure we see the details of our plumes, let's paint Galvorback Red directly into those recesses. Highlight any edges and individual hairs with Towelite Ochre to finish. I now want to work on any gems around the armour before moving on to the final section, where we'll paint the more fun details like energy effects on weapons, as well as painting a cloak for a shield captain. To paint any gems, start with Stegodon Scale Green. After that, let's paint some Sotek Green on the bottom right of the gem, leaving our base colour shown at the top. We then want to paint a thin line around the edge using Baharroth Blue. Now finish any gems painting a dot of white scar at the top of each gem. We can't paint Custodes without learning to paint their iconic power weapons, including that lightning effect you see on the blades. Let's start by painting any blades, painting our base colour using Stegodon Scale Green. And when that's dried, we can start working on creating smooth transitions towards the tip, glazing lighter colours. Our first glaze is going to be Sotek Green, and to make this a glaze we want to thin this down with twice the amount of water. This is going to make it more transparent and allowing any colours underneath to show through. When you're ready, let's start near the middle of the blade and build up the glaze using even thin layers towards the tip. And we can use a glaze of the colour underneath to help smooth the transitions even more. Once you're happy with how that looks, we can continue to get lighter towards the tip with Temburgard Blue, following the same steps starting just above the Sotek Green layer, and we can again create a nicer blend glazing with the previous colour. Finish with a Baharroth Blue glaze towards the very tip of the blade, and this will help create more of a glow on the blade to help with our energy effect. To create the lightning effect, start with Baharroth Blue and paint some rough squiggly lines arching from the power nodes towards the end of the blade. These lines should arc and twist as they travel towards the tip, with some splitting into smaller branches to give a more natural, energetic look. We can now refine our lightning by using Blue Horror to paint thinner lines inside the Baharroth Blue lines we've already created. After that we can finish any blades highlighting them first with Baharroth Blue and then Blue Horror towards the end of the blade. Finally we can finish with White Scar, making our highlights and energy effect easier to see where the blade is lightest at the tip. Now we've learnt about glazing, let's see how we can apply this to paint a shield captain's cloak. Glazing is one of my favourite techniques to use to create cool effects and interest on our miniatures, and I believe that no matter your skill level, with some practice you can achieve what I've just shown you. We can start with a raised design, painting it Baylor brown so we don't have to worry about being messy, as we'll be painting the material after this. Now spend some time creating depth and variation with the Semezi Desert Glaze for lighter areas and XV88 for the darker areas, and we can use the contours of the material to help us with this. We can go lighter with the Ushabti Bone and Doomball Brown when we want to be darkest. Once you're happy with how that looks, finish this raised detail, highlighting the edges with Screaming Skull for a clean looking finish. For the actual material of the cloak, start with a nice solid base colour of Mephiston Red. We can then use Corn Red in the shallow folds and shadowed areas. And for those deeper folds and recesses we can use Galvorback Red to add even more depth. And we can use our glazing technique to smooth things out if you feel you need to. Let's do a chunky highlight next with Evilson Scarlet to start bringing out the raised details and folds of the cloak. Follow this with a finer highlight using Squig Orange along all those edges and again the raised folds. We can then finish with Towelite Ochre to really emphasise details and folds. After that, for any tasseled aguilettes, start with the Corax white. We can then use Administratum grey to create our definition in the recessed areas, and neaten up with Corax white to keep the raised areas clean and tidy. Then finish these details with white scar to highlight. Now you've learned how to paint a cloak for a shield captain, we're almost finished, except for our lenses. So let's first paint some white scar in the centre of each lens. Then after that, let's finish any lenses applying Blood Angel's contrast into the recessed areas to give us more of a glow effect. It's been a lot of fun making this tutorial and trying to figure out how to teach you guys how to paint your own Adeptus Custodes, and I wanted to make it approachable for any skill level while still teaching you the techniques so that you can achieve some great looking results once you're done. So let's see how they turned out. The last thing I want to do is to say a massive thank you to all the amazing people who've made this tutorial possible with their continued support. It really means a lot. Your generosity allows me to get all the paints, brushes and miniatures I need to make these tutorials so I can continue to help you get better at painting. And I especially want to thank Brendan, Tio, Jonathan Bear and John Mark Ortis Radio, who have recently become supporters or have donated to the channel. Thank you so much. If you enjoy the content here on TableTopReady and feel you get value from it, you can also help support the channel by becoming a channel member or joining the Patreon. You'll get access to our Discord, regular updates and early access to videos and tutorials. We've now finished painting our Adeptus Custodes, and I hope I've been able to give you the confidence and knowledge to paint your own. I've got plenty of other tutorials on the channel showing you how to improve your painting and how you can paint some of the alternative schemes for your Custodes, so go check those out as well. I really do enjoy making these tutorials and I hope you find them useful. If you do, then please leave a like and let me know in the comments below. As well, make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on future content, and I'll see you in the next video.